A solar observatory recorded a sudden drop in emissions, a brief quiet at the heart of the sun, then nothing. Observer, you found your way here at the exact moment this anomaly appeared, as if the cosmos nudged you gently awake. An interstellar fragment called Thurhisov Atlas is venting material without recoil, moving where no force should allow. At hydrogen's own frequency, 1420 MHz. The sky listens and hears silence. What if this absence is not emptiness but intent? What are the odds that a visitor from another star would pass so close just as our instruments fall quiet? A faint glow drifts between Mars and the Sun, a whisper hidden in stellar light. Let's drift through the silence together. Tonight the universe whispers again, not through sound but through absence. An interstellar object moves through the inner solar system with a calm that feels deliberate, even though nothing suggests intention. It sheds gas into space, forming a faint halo that catches sunlight and releases it gently back into the dark. Yet its path remains smooth, almost untouched. Gravity holds it firmly and nothing else seems to speak. Astronomers encounter this mystery through numbers before they ever feel wonder. Night after night, positions are measured with careful precision, each photon placed into a long column of data. These measurements usually reveal small deviations, the subtle fingerprints of force at work. This time, the expected trace does not appear. The data settles into an unusual stillness, as if the universe has chosen restraint. In celestial mechanics, activity rarely comes without consequence. When ice warms and gas escapes, momentum must answer. This exchange is among the most reliable principles in physics, repeated endlessly across comets and spacecraft alike. Outgassing creates thrust. Thrust alters motion. It is not poetry but structure written clearly into the movement of matter. Yet here gas flows outward, and motion remains unchanged. A luminous coma grows and breathes dust particles spreading along paths shaped by radiation and time. Telescopes confirm the chemistry, the heat, the release of material. There is no doubt that activity is present, and still the orbit refuses to respond, as if the object absorbs every push without reply. This quiet defiance is not dramatic. It does not announce itself with sudden flares or violent shifts. Instead, it persists gently detectable only through patient comparison and careful subtraction. Astronomers refer to the missing effect as non-gravitational acceleration, a term that sounds severe but describes something soft. A whisper of force that usually reveals itself over time. To hear such a whisper requires long attention. Models account for planetary pulls, relativistic corrections, even the faint pressure of sunlight. When all known influences are removed, what remains should be a trace of recoil. In this case, the equations rest comfortably. The residuals do not rise. The mathematics seems content with silence. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves. Images from space telescopes show nothing unnatural, nothing abrupt. A modest core wrapped in gas and dust, responding to warmth in ways that feel familiar. The light behaves as expected. The chemistry aligns with known processes. Only the motion beneath it all remains unusually calm. Perhaps the explanation lies in mass. If the body is far denser than its brightness suggests, the momentum of escaping gas may simply be too weak to matter. A massive object drifting between stars would accept these forces without visible change, like a mountain standing against wind. In that case, the universe remains consistent, its laws intact. Or perhaps symmetry holds the answer. Jets arranged across a rotating surface could oppose one another with rare balance, their forces cancelling almost perfectly. Such precision feels unlikely, yet nature often achieves balances that surprise human expectation. Order does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides within averages. Traveller, there is no need to rush toward explanation. Science advances not by urgency, but by patience. Hypotheses remain gentle, held loosely shaped by future light rather than present desire. The absence of certainty here does not weaken understanding. It deepens it, reminding us that knowledge grows best when allowed to breathe. This object is rare, but rarity does not imply danger. It is only the third confirmed visitor from another star passing briefly through a region dense with instruments and curiosity. Its journey spans millions of years, yet its time here is fleeting. That contrast alone carries quiet weight. As it approaches the sun, its brightness increases. Activity rises, structures evolve, and earlier oddities soften into familiar patterns as geometry shifts. Perspective resolves what once appeared strange. This is how astronomy often unfolds surprise, slowly yielding to context tension, dissolving into understanding. Still, the missing acceleration remains absent, and that absence does not demand invention or fear. It invites humility. Not every mystery seeks immediate resolution. Some exist, simply to remind us of scale of patience, of how much remains unspoken in the universe. You're not lost in space, you are part of it. The cosmos has never promised full answers, only moments of clarity wrapped in vast quiet. This visitor adds another such moment, a pause written into motion, a reminder that silence can be as informative as sound. Silence is the language of distant worlds. For now, the object continues on its path, releasing gas into darkness, obeying gravity with calm discipline. The data remains steady. The night sky does not hurry, and it is all right tonight to rest without knowing. The story of this interstellar visitor does not begin with certainty. It emerges gradually from archival images, quiet frames captured long before anyone knew to look twice. In those early observations, it appears as nothing more than a faint point drifting against crowded star fields. A particle of light among billions, indistinguishable, unremarkable, patiently waiting to be recognized. Only later does motion reveal what brightness cannot. Its speed does not align with objects bound to the sun. Calculations hint at a path that does not close upon itself, a trajectory that arrives from elsewhere and will not return. Mathematics, more than imagery, delivers the first sense of distance. This object is not native. It is passing through. Confirmation spreads slowly, as it always does in science. Observatories compare notes. Data sets converge. The hyperbolic path remains intact under scrutiny. A visitor from another stellar system has been identified, the third of its kind ever confirmed. The announcement is measured, almost restrained. Discovery here is not celebration but acknowledgement. Its direction of approach adds another layer of quiet complexity. The object appears to emerge from a region dense with stars near the galactic centre. In such crowded skies, every photon competes for clarity. Early measurements carry uncertainty not because of error, but because precision itself becomes difficult amid abundance. Context matters. Astronomy is shaped as much by background as by signal. As observations continue, the object brightens. Not suddenly, not violently, but steadily responding to solar warmth. A coma begins to form a thin atmosphere, expanding outward as volatile material escapes. Dust follows tracing arcs shaped by radiation pressure and orbital motion. These are familiar processes, deeply studied, gently understood. Yet even here, caution remains essential. Brightness alone can deceive. Changes in viewing angle, the growth of surrounding dust, and the geometry of observation all influence what instruments record. Scientists resist the urge to label early changes as acceleration or anomaly. They slow the story down, letting multiple explanations coexist. Images from space telescopes provide the first clear portraits. A plume stretches sunward, delicate and transient, confirming directed outgassing. Faint structures appear where none are expected, suggesting dust distributed along earlier portions of the orbit. These shapes look unusual at first glance, but not impossible. Perspective has a way of reshaping intuition. Over time, these features evolve. What once seemed reversed settles into recognizable geometry. Dust released weeks earlier becomes visible under new alignments, creating the illusion of material pointing toward the sun. This phenomenon has been observed before, recorded in textbooks, explained through orbital mechanics rather than mystery. Listener, there is comfort in how often the unfamiliar returns to the familiar. Astronomy teaches patience by repetition. What looks strange under one angle often resolves under another. The universe does not change its rules to confuse us. It simply waits until we are looking from the right place. Still, the deeper tension remains untouched. If activity is visible, if gas and dust are clearly escaping, then force must exist. And if force exists, motion should answer. The absence of that answer becomes more striking as evidence accumulates. Each new image sharpens the same quiet question. Where is the response? To understand this, astronomers turn again to first principles. Non-gravitational acceleration is not an exotic idea. It is a bookkeeping term, a way of accounting for tiny pushes that slowly alter paths through space. Most comets reveal this effect naturally, their orbits bending just enough to be measured over time. Here measurements remain stubbornly flat. Upper limits are published. Discussions appear in careful language. The signal remains buried beneath detection thresholds. This is not a declaration of impossibility, only an admission of uncertainty. Science does not shout when it lacks evidence. It lowers its voice. The contrast grows sharper when compared to other visitors. One earlier interstellar object displayed strong acceleration without visible activity. Another behaved exactly as theory predicted, venting gas and drifting accordingly. This visitor occupies a third position, visible activity paired with motionless calm. A spectrum of behaviour begins to form. Such diversity invites reflection rather than judgment. Interstellar space is vast, and the objects it carries are shaped by environments far removed from our own. Chemistry, temperature, and formation history vary across stellar systems. Expecting uniform behaviour may say more about our assumptions than about reality. Spectroscopy adds further nuance. Chemical signatures reveal an object rich in carbon dioxide, with water playing a lesser role than expected. This composition suggests formation in colder regions or under different stellar conditions. Chemistry becomes a quiet storyteller, hinting at origins without declaring them. Carbon dioxide sublimates differently than water. It tends to escape more evenly, less prone to forming narrow jets. Such behaviour could naturally reduce directional thrust, spreading momentum across the surface rather than focusing it. In this light, stability begins to look less miraculous and more contextual. Still, chemistry alone does not settle the matter. Symmetry must be precise to cancel force so thoroughly. Mass must be sufficient to absorb what remains. Rotation must align in ways that maintain balance over time. Each requirement is plausible. Their combination is simply rare. Rarity, however, is not evidence of design. It is evidence of scale. When billions of objects move through space, unlikely combinations eventually appear. Statistics whisper this truth softly, reminding us that coincidence and improbability are not opposites but neighbours. The object continues its passage indifferent to interpretation. It brightens, then dims, responding only to distance and heat. It does not pause to explain itself. It carries no message we can yet decode, only data recorded in light and silence. And in that silence, understanding does not collapse. It expands. Doubt becomes space for thought rather than a failure of knowledge. The universe offers no obligation to resolve every question within a single encounter. Tonight the stars continue their steady motion. The visitor moves on, its calm unbroken, its story still unfolding beyond our reach. And it is enough for now to observe without conclusion, to let uncertainty rest where it belongs, drifting gently among the stars. Understanding motion in space often begins with something ordinary. A slow push, a steady response, a measurable change that unfolds over time. On Earth, the effect is immediate. In space, it reveals itself, gradually accumulating across weeks and months. Astronomers learn to trust this patience, knowing that even the smallest forces leave signatures if given enough time to speak. The principle behind this is simple, almost elegant. When material escapes from a surface, momentum must be conserved. The escaping gas moves outward, and the body responds inward, however slightly. This exchange governs rockets, comets, and drifting debris alike. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, consistent, and deeply reliable. To detect such subtle motion requires extraordinary care. Positions are tracked against distant stars, each one assumed nearly motionless at human timescales. Small discrepancies build slowly, revealing accelerations too gentle to feel yet too persistent to ignore. This is how astronomers listen for forces that never announce themselves loudly. In most cases, the signal emerges without resistance. Active comets display predictable deviations from purely gravitational paths. Their orbits bend just enough to confirm the presence of thrust. These measurements align with laboratory physics, spacecraft observations, and decades of accumulated data. The universe in these moments behaves exactly as expected, but this interstellar visitor resists that expectation. Despite clear signs of material loss, its motion remains almost entirely governed by gravity. The calculations settle into place without demanding correction. The force that should be there does not rise above the noise. This absence grows more meaningful the longer it persists. Comparison sharpens the contrast. Another interstellar object once displayed strong acceleration without visible activity challenging assumptions in the opposite direction. A second behaved precisely like a familiar comet, confirming established models. Together, these cases form a quiet spectrum suggesting that interstellar space delivers variety rather than uniformity. The missing acceleration here invites careful explanation. One possibility rests in mass. If the object is significantly heavier than it appears, the same amount of thrust would produce far less response. Brightness can mislead, especially when dust and gas obscure the true size of the solid core. Mass hides easily in darkness, yet even large comets usually respond if only faintly. History offers examples of massive bodies that still show measurable recoil. Size dampens acceleration but rarely erases it entirely. This pushes attention toward geometry, rotation, and surface behavior rather than scale alone. Physics rarely yields to a single variable. Symmetry becomes a compelling idea. If gas escapes evenly across the surface, forces can cancel almost perfectly. A rotating body with distributed activity may experience vigorous outgassing without net thrust. Such balance is uncommon but not forbidden. Nature sometimes achieves harmony that feels improbable only because it is rare. Rotation complicates this picture. Most small bodies tumble or spin, irregularly exposing different regions to sunlight over time. This variability usually introduces asymmetry and with it acceleration. For balance to persist, rotation must interact with surface composition in a remarkably stable way. The universe is capable of such arrangements, even if we seldom see them. Chemistry offers another layer of quiet influence. Carbon dioxide dominates this object's emissions, unlike most comets where water plays the leading role. Carbon dioxide sublimates more uniformly, spreading its escape across wider regions. This behavior naturally softens directional thrust, turning sharp jets into gentle exhalations. In this context, calm motion begins to feel less mysterious. Chemistry shapes physics, composition shapes behavior. An object formed under different stellar conditions may obey the same laws while expressing them differently. Familiar equations still apply, but the parameters shift in subtle ways. Still, explanations remain provisional. Upper limits on acceleration do not mean absence forever. They mean that detection requires more time, more data, or more favourable geometry. Astronomy has learned repeatedly that patience often transforms silence into signal. The sky rarely reveals everything at once. This uncertainty is not a weakness. It is a feature of honest inquiry. The universe does not conform to our schedules, nor does it prioritise clarity over truth. Incomplete answers remind us that knowledge is always partial, always shaped by the tools and perspectives available. As the object continues its journey, observation continues with it. Each night adds a point to the arc. Each spectrum adds nuance to composition. The question of motion remains open not because it resists explanation, but because it invites careful listening rather than assumption. There is a quiet beauty in this restraint. Nothing about the situation demands fear or urgency. It demands attention, humility, and time. The cosmos does not rush to reveal itself, and neither should those who study it. Silence in this case is not emptiness. It is a pause in which multiple explanations coexist without conflict. It is the space where models remain flexible and curiosity remains gentle. The absence of acceleration becomes a lesson in how science breathes. Somewhere beyond the reach of certainty, the object moves on. Its path remains smooth, its behavior consistent with forces we understand, even if not yet fully explained. Gravity guides it, light reveals it, and still much of its story remains unwritten. Tonight, the universe does not resolve the question. It allows it to drift suspended between possibility and evidence, and that is enough. In this stillness, understanding does not sleep, but it rests waiting patiently for the next whisper carried by light. As attention turns from motion toward composition, the universe offers another quiet layer of evidence. Light separated into wavelengths becomes a record of matter. Spectroscopy does not shout. It whispers, revealing atoms through faint signatures stretched across distance and time. In these patterns, astronomers read histories written long before observation began. Nothing here announces intention. Everything responds to energy, temperature, and environment shaped by processes older than stars we know, waiting patiently for interpretation, without urgency or drama or demand or haste or spectacle or alarm or exaggeration or fear or conclusion or insistence or pressure or certainty or closure. When instruments examined emissions from the interstellar visitor, subtle imbalances appeared. Nickel lines glowed clearly while iron remained faint or absent. In most comets, these elements travel together, forged in similar environments, released through related processes. Their separation here is quiet but meaningful, suggesting altered histories rather than violation of law. Chemistry records origin, not intention. Surface binding volatility, grain size, radiation exposure, and age shape what escapes first. Nothing here demands invention. Everything fits within known behavior, extended gently beyond familiar examples, without urgency or alarm or spectacle or disruption or threat or drama, or insistence or exaggeration, or fear alone. Nickel does not glow without cause. Atoms must be freed, excited by sunlight, and allowed to radiate at characteristic frequencies. This mechanism is understood yet rarely isolated. Iron usually accompanies it, responding to similar energy. Its absence here invites patience, not alarm. Several natural explanations remain plausible. Differential volatility, grain size, surface chemistry, and long exposure to cosmic radiation could favour nickel release. Time itself acts quietly, altering bonds without intention. The universe often separates what we expect together not to confuse, but because history rarely preserves symmetry indefinitely across vast distances and epochs, unknown to us, yet patient still. Carbon dioxide adds another gentle clue. Its dominance suggests formation far from regions where water ice shaped early structure. In colder environments, chemical pathways differ, producing materials that respond evenly to heat. Such sublimation spreads escape across surfaces, softening thrust and reducing recoil. Directional jets weaken, replaced by broad release. Motion remains calm not because force vanishes, but because balance emerges. Physics remains intact, expressed differently. Familiar equations still apply, though parameters shift quietly. Nothing here resists law. Everything follows it, shaped by conditions unfamiliar yet entirely natural within cosmic chemistry and thermal history written slowly beyond our origin stories. Beyond chemistry, mass returns to consideration. Outgassing rates suggest material loss, yet motion remains unchanged. When these measures combine, density increases in implication. Brightness misleads, dust conceals, and dark surfaces absorb light. What appears modest may hide substantial weight. Inertia answers gently when force applies. Like wind against stone, effect exists without consequence. Gravity continues command, motion obeys. Nothing supernatural intervenes. Proportion explains restraint. Mass alone may not solve everything, but it reduces mystery. Calm follows naturally from scale. Size dampens response without erasing cause. Physics breathes easily here, unbroken, patient, consistent, ancient, waiting for time rather than urgency alone. Symmetry also matters. Distributed activity across a rotating body can cancel force. Jets oppose jets. Momentum answers momentum. Such balance is rare but not forbidden. Nature often achieves harmony without intention. Rotation usually disrupts balance, yet under stable conditions equilibrium can persist. Geometry collaborates with composition. Time reinforces pattern. This possibility does not demand design. It requires patience to observe. Models explore scenarios, quietly testing combinations until cancellation appears. Many fail, a few endure. Rarity alone proves nothing. Statistics remind us improbability emerges naturally when scale expands. The universe selects outcomes without preference shaped by history, rotation, exposure, chance duration. Computation supports restraint. Simulations distribute vents across surfaces, applying heat, rotation and mass. Most outcomes show recoil, a handful do not. These cases require precise alignment, yet precision exists in nature. Planetary resonances persist, rings remain, stability emerges where chaos might dominate. Modelling does not conclude, it narrows space. Understanding grows through exclusion as much as discovery. Each run refines expectation, teaching where balance lives. Computers do not invent mystery. They reveal conditions under which silence becomes likely. Explanation approaches quietly without announcement, waiting for confirmation, not applause, not certainty, not declaration, not spectacle, not insistence, not haste, not noise. As data accumulates, interpretation remains careful. Peer language favours limits, not claims. Upper bounds replace assertion. Absence becomes information, not failure. This discipline preserves trust. Science resists premature narrative. In doing so, it remains adaptable. Uncertainty is not weakness, it is space for revision. The object continues outward, indifferent to debate. It brightens, dims, obeys distance. Its behaviour fits law even when examples remain few. The universe teaches through patience, not revelation. Silence here speaks proportion. Listening becomes skill, not conclusion, not triumph, not resolution, not closure, not dominance, not certainty, not alarm, not fear, not drama, not demand attention. Eventually departure arrives, brightness fades, signal thins, instruments lose contact one by one, records remain, graphs persist, memory settles. This ending is not loss, it is completion. Encounters in astronomy are brief. Value lies in perspective, not permanence. The cosmos does not linger for explanation. It moves onward, carrying processes older than curiosity. The visitor leaves without reply, yet understanding grows from having watched. Absence teaches scale. Silence teaches patience. Distance teaches humility. These lessons endure longer than data, longer than debate, longer than certainty, longer than fear, longer than wonder, longer than expectation, longer than urgency, longer than arrival. Meaning settles slowly, not as answer, but as orientation. The universe remains vast, indifferent, consistent. Human presence is brief, attentive, reflective. Observation becomes relationship, not conquest. The sky does not need resolution to be complete. Mystery remains intact, drifting beyond reach. That is enough. To watch, to listen, to accept scale. Not knowing becomes peace. Questions soften, breath slows, night continues, stars turn, motion persists, silence speaks. And in that quiet understanding rests unfinished patient open, without demand, without fear, without urgency, without closure, without insistence, without end, without need, without answer, without certainty, without explanation, without conclusion, only presence. By the time questions turn toward meaning, the sky has moved on. Objects pass, measurements fade, and what remains is interpretation. In astronomy, conclusions rarely arrive as answers, but as boundaries around ignorance. The interstellar visitor leaves behind numbers, spectra, residuals, and silence. These fragments do not resolve mystery, they frame it. Understanding grows not by conquest, but by restraint. Each model accepts limits. Each hypothesis bows to uncertainty. The universe does not explain itself. It offers consistency instead. Gravity persists. Light travels. Entropy unfolds. Within this order, anomalies remind us that knowledge is provisional, shaped by perspective, distance, and patience rather than certainty alone. From this perspective, the question of artificial origin softens, not because it is forbidden, but because evidence asks for balance. Extraordinary ideas require extraordinary quiet. They demand time, repetition, and failure. Speculation without patience becomes noise. In the case of distant visitors, nature has proven capable of strangeness without intention. Chemistry diverges. Shapes stretch, motions surprise. None of this requires purpose. The cosmos experiments endlessly through formation, collision, and erosion. What seems deliberate may simply be rare. Statistics mislead when samples remain small. Wisdom lies in waiting for patterns to repeat before naming design. Restraint protects inquiry from premature certainty and cultural projection and humility. CT often listens for intention through signal, yet matter itself may speak more softly. Objects carry histories that no transmitter can erase. Composition, motion, and structure persist regardless of motive. If intelligence exists elsewhere, it may choose silence as strategy or indifference as default. Absence of message does not equal absence of mind, yet neither does ambiguity equal proof. The careful path studies physical evidence without narrative hunger. It compares natural populations, measures distributions, and accepts dull outcomes. Discovery is not guaranteed meaning. Sometimes the lesson is simply that the universe is larger than expectation and quieter. Tonight the universe whispers without urgency or demand. As telescopes improve, humility must improve with them. Precision narrows error but never eliminates mystery. Each new instrument sharpens questions more than answers. Data arrives cleaner, yet interpretation remains human. Bias hides quietly inside expectation. This is why repetition matters. Multiple observers' methods and seasons protect truth. Interstellar objects will come again, and many of them ordinary, some unusual. Only comparison across abundance reveals significance. A single anomaly cannot carry cosmic meaning alone. It is a note, not a symphony. Understanding waits for chorus. Until then, restraint preserves clarity. Silence becomes discipline, not ignorance in scientific listening. You're not lost in space, you are part. The visitor's passage reminds us that motion does not imply message. Rocks travel. Ice sublimates. Dust responds to light. These processes do not announce purpose. They unfold because conditions permit them. When humans search for meaning, they must first accept scale. Civilizations rise and fade within a cosmic moment. Interstellar debris predates memory itself. To such travelers, our curiosity is invisible. That imbalance should encourage modesty. We observe briefly, then release. Knowledge gained is partial yet valuable. It sharpens methods, refines patience, and teaches comfort with unanswered questions. This is progress measured in understanding, not revelation. Acceptance arrives quietly, without triumph, closure, or demand alone. Future surveys will multiply encounters. Most will be dull, and that dullness will matter. Normality defines baseline. Without it, anomaly has no meaning. The Vera Rubin era will flood databases with motion-like curves and spectra. Among thousands, patterns will emerge. Some objects will defy expectation, then later settle into explanation. Others will remain unresolved longer. This distribution matters more than any single case. Population reveals process. Outliers test theory. Science advances not through surprise alone, but through context. With enough examples, mystery shrinks naturally, without force, without fear, without urgency, and without myth. Silence is the language of distant worlds, and patience listens still. Philosophically, the search reshapes the seeker. Looking outward clarifies inward limits. Astronomy humbles by scale, not threat. It invites reflection rather than alarm. When confronted with the unknown, humans often rush toward narrative. Yet the sky resists story. It offers recurrence, not plot. Orbits repeat. Laws persist. Change occurs without intention. Accepting this quiet structure is difficult but freeing. It allows curiosity without anxiety. One may observe deeply without demanding answers. In that space, wonder survives longer than fear. Sleep becomes possible beneath questions that remain open, unresolved, and gently luminous against the dark. Tonight the stars will keep their silence with us without explanation. In reflection, the interstellar passage becomes mirror rather than message. It shows how humans respond to uncertainty. Some lean toward invention, others towards dismissal. The balanced path holds both curiosity and caution. It neither denies possibility nor embraces fantasy. This posture defines mature inquiry. It recognizes that intelligence elsewhere would owe us nothing. No signal, no greeting, no acknowledgement. Expectation is our projection. The cosmos continues regardless. Accepting this releases tension. One may still search, still measure, still hope without attachment. Meaning arises not from contact, but from participation in a universe vast enough to ignore us entirely and remain calm within unanswered distance forever. Ultimately, the lesson settles into acceptance. Not resignation, but alignment. The universe does not owe explanation. Humans owe attention. Observation is a form of respect. Listening becomes participation. Even silence contains information. Absence defines boundary. When interstellar visitors depart, they leave no verdict, only perspective. That perspective widens thought and slows judgment. It encourages better questions rather than louder claims. Progress appears as refinement. Each mystery trains restraint. Each uncertainty builds tolerance. In time, understanding becomes quieter, less dramatic, more stable. Knowledge matures when it coexists with doubt without discomfort, fear or impatience resting easily within scale. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves. When the night deepens, inquiry softens into rest. Telescopes cool, screens dim, data waits. The cosmos continues its motion, indifferent yet reliable. Nothing demands conclusion before sleep. It is enough to have watched. It is enough to have wondered. Silence does not erase meaning, it preserves it. Tomorrow analysis resumes. Tonight stillness holds. The universe remains vast, consistent and unfinished. That is not failure. It is invitation. You may rest without answers. Curiosity will remain. The sky remembers every path, every atom, every passage. Sleep comes easily when one accepts belonging rather than certainty drifting calmly within a story that never ends in quiet continuity. As our journey with 3i Atlas just made the sun go silent comes to rest, the sky does not close, it simply grows quieter. The object continues on its path, carrying its unanswered questions back into the dark between stars, leaving us with measurements, reflections, and a deeper sense of scale. Tonight we have watched without needing to conquer, listened without demanding reply. That too is part of science. Traveller, if there is one truth this passage offers, it is this: the universe does not hurry to explain itself. It unfolds patiently, layer by layer, orbit by orbit, inviting us to witness rather than resolve. In that act of observing, we find humility. We are small beneath the cosmos, yet not insignificant, because curiosity itself is a form of belonging. Some mysteries remain intact for a reason. They keep wonder alive. They remind us that time is vast, that silence can be meaningful, and that not knowing is not failure, but space for thought, for awe, for rest. Beyond this moment, the stars continue their quiet work. Light travels, gravity listens. Somewhere far away, something ancient still moves unconcerned with our questions, yet forever shaping them. If this story found you tonight, you may stay for the next. Until then, rest well. The universe will keep watch,